We talked about the FBI, the most corrupt organization in the country. They're one of them. The CIA and the FBI are incredibly corrupt. You will not know what's going on. And the Trump administration is corrupt as well, by the way. I'm not removing the label of corruption from that administration, by the way, which is it's quite obvious at this point that they're hiding things.
So it seems like Tim Dillon is slowly but surely starting to lose trust in the Trump administration, and as more time goes by, he's getting more vocal about it. In his recent podcast episode, he went on a rant about the Charlie Kirk assassination and whether or not Tyler Robinson is actually the shooter. The segment started with Tim briefly covering the ICE shooting that happened a couple of days ago, where the FBI posted photos of the bullets used. On them it said anti-ICE, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist, but considering the shooter only targeted immigrants and not ICE agents, my guess is that the text was most likely written by the jokers working at the FBI. And not only that, but the report also tried to make it seem like these poor little ICE agents were just being targeted all over the country and were victims of non-stop violence, which is obviously just a bunch of lies to twist the narrative and make you feel bad for the ICE agents, which I doubt anyone does at this point considering what ICE really is, Trump's Gestapo. That being said, Tim barely scratched the surface on this case, moved on pretty quickly, and then gave his opinion on the Tyler Robinson case.
Stop writing on the bullets, folks. You know, this shooting with the ICE thing. I don't know. Somebody wrote on that bullet. I don't even know if that's a real thing. What's going on with this? Before I get out of here, you anti-ICE. I don't know. That just doesn't feel real. What's going on with this Tyler Robinson? What do we think? What do we think's going on here? I don't know. I don't know what's happening here. Is this an organized thing? Is something else happening? Is it Trantifa? I don't even know what that is, but it's my favorite word. I'm going as Halloween is Trantifa. But Candace says she's got big stuff going. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see what she's uncovered. I'm not doing the investigating. What the hell do I know? Rogan made a point about the gun. Maybe so. I'm not a marksman. I don't know these things.
So in order for you guys to get the full context of what Tim Dillon is talking about and what his reference to Joe Rogan means, I'll show you the video where Rogan talks about the Tyler Robinson case and all the weird things surrounding it. And here's the deal, even a broken clock is right twice a day, because even though we all know by now that Rogan is big into conspiracy theories and that a lot of what he says on his podcast is nonsense, this time I've got to say he brings up some good points.
Actually inaccurate, right, according to the narrative. Now, let's be real clear. I don't necessarily think they know what's going on yet. There's a lot of weird shit going on with this.
I know.
First of all, there was that one guy who was the decoy. All right, so you got this guy who's an older guy who starts yelling out. Didn't he take his pants down? He took his pants down. This guy was at 9/11. He was at the Boston bombings.
All the hits.
He called in a fake bomb at another place, and then he did this at this thing. Right after, so somehow or another, this guy has the state of mind that the moment someone gets shot, he yells out and says, I did it, and takes his pants down or something like that. I don't know exactly what he did. Then, ready for this? He gets arrested for child porn right away.
Right after this happened?
Oh, right away. He's in jail for child porn. Why is that? Well, now you can't interview him.
Right, right.
Right, and because when the internet people start going, how are you at all these different things? Like, what are the odds? Like, if someone ran it through one of the ChatGPT fucking perplexity things, like, what are the odds that this guy would be at all those different events and be involved? Like, zero.
This is the guy?
Yeah.
I just like that the pants down part is just insane to me. It's like, why is your dick out, dude?
I did it. Listen, I'm not saying this guy isn't insane. He's clearly insane. Yeah. Or not. Or he's professionally insane.
Right.
That's where it gets squirrely.
Now, if you follow the Tyler Robinson case closely, you've probably seen this theory pop up online a lot. And honestly, it's pretty weird that this guy was allegedly at all those tragedies. To be fair, it could just be someone else who happens to look just like him. That's definitely possible. But even then, that's a crazy coincidence. I mean, what are the odds that at all those tragedies, there's always some guy who looks just like the one present at the Charlie Kirk assassination? Realistically, we're never gonna know if it's actually the same guy, especially since he's locked up, so at the end of the day, we're just left with a big question mark. Now, Rogan continues by focusing on the technicality of whether or not that shot was possible, as well as some of the theories about the gun. This is where things start to get really weird, and the FBI's explanation about the gun makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
I almost texted you when the Charlie Kirk thing happened because my antennas went up about, they showed the photo of that kid, or the guy that they have, the 22-year-old,
Yeah.
whatever. And I was almost going to be like, dude, do you think he's got the capability to do that?
Yeah, well, listen, there are people that look like that have the capability to do that.
Pretty
yes.
accurate.
Nope.
No?
Not hard. Not hard at
Not
all.
hard.
Let me dispel that.
Okay.
Okay. 200 yards from a prone position with a dead-on rifle. So if you have a dead-on rifle, so you set this rifle, you set your 0 to 200 yards, right? You know how far you're going to shoot. It is not hard at all.
He shot a lot?
You don't have to shoot a lot.
So
I could do it tomorrow.
If you're no, but you are experienced. If it's someone that's never shot, could they do it?
100%. Not
Really?
if they've never shot. They wouldn't know where to look. They'd have a hard time acquiring the like when you look through a scope, like when the reticle is weird. Like it's sometimes
Takes a minute.
You got to know the distance that you have to be from it to really line it up in your sights. But you could get a guy like my friend Andy Stumpf, who was a sniper in the SEALs. You could get him, and he could show you how to do it in an afternoon, and then you could hit steel at 200 yards every time you pull the trigger.
One day you could learn that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Not that hard.
Because it feels insane to me. I'm like, that
No.
seems tough.
It seems tough. But this kid had a rifle with a scope. Now, here's where it gets weird. The first images of this rifle with a scope, I swear to God, it looks like he has a composite stock on it. Like it looks like a modern 30-06 rifle. So a 30-06, so that's the rifle. 30-06 is like, that looks like a very modern looking stock. I mean, it might not be. It might be just a bad resolution. It might be wood. It's hard to tell. But if you showed me that and you said, hey, this is my cousin's rifle, is this any good? I'd be like, looks like a standard bolt-action rifle with like a sophisticated modern scope on it. Sure. Now, apparently, the narrative is that this is his grandfather's rifle from World War I and doesn't have a serial code. Okay.
Interesting.
Okay. Why? Wait. Why are you using such an old gun? Like, that's kind of crazy. Like, is it possible that an old gun can be that accurate? If you have a gunsmith and they work on it, yeah, it's totally possible. You have a really good gunsmith and he sets. If you're like a nostalgic person, you like driving an old car, you could bring it to a mechanic. They could redo the brakes.
Sure.
So if you got a good gunsmith and he took a look at that and the action was true and the bore is good, yeah, you could conceivably shoot with a gun for hundreds of years, right? Guns don't necessarily go bad.
Right, they don't expire.
Right, and especially because all the stuff like the trigger and the action and all that different stuff is replaceable. So you could just it's compartmentalized. It's components. That's the other thing. They said that he took it apart and then put it back together again. Shut the fuck up. Do you know how much time it would take to do that if you were highly skilled?
To disassemble a gun.
To disassemble a rifle so that you can get it in a backpack. And by the way, not going to fit.
Not gonna fit in a backpack.
And then somehow or another reconnects it once he gets off the roof? What?
Now, I should mention, I'm not a gun expert. In fact, I know very little about guns and how they work. But even to a dummy like me, the FBI's explanation makes no sense whatsoever. Even if you don't take into account the amount of time it would take to disassemble a gun, why would Tyler Robinson decide to reassemble it after the shooting only to then throw it away in a bush? Why not just throw a disassembled gun in a bush? Why take the extra time to put it back together after the shooting? Once again, that part makes no sense whatsoever. And then when you factor in the other thing Rogan mentioned, that the gun doesn't fit into the backpack, things start to get really confusing. But now that you guys have the context of what Tim Dillon was referencing, let's go back to him, because it seems like all these unanswered questions about the case made him lose trust in Trump and his administration, which, coming from someone like Tim Dillon, is a pretty big statement considering how much he was riding the MAGA trend in the beginning.
What I am saying is that what I do know is geopolitics, culture. I know a fair amount about the way these things have happened other places. I'm not an expert in the forensics or in the bullet and this and that. I don't know anything about that, and I'll never pretend to. What I do know is the way these things have been done other places, other countries, including our own. You can recognize disinformation. You've read enough books and you've seen enough stuff. You can start seeing the zone, flood the zone with disinfo and weird info, and nobody quite knows easily disprovable stuff. You know, after 9/11, it was like, there are no buildings, there was a hologram. And you're like, what? There were no planes, there were holograms. You start going, well, no one thinks that. Who are you? Who are you working for? Why are you saying that? Everybody else is making real points and wondering about certain easily answerable questions that can't be answered. And then someone will always come out and say something ridiculous. And that's disinfo. It's called flooding the zone. Now, I don't know what info is good and what isn't. That is the point of these campaigns. I just know that Kesh Patel is an idiot. Dan Bongino, I think, is probably a good guy, but he's in over his head. We talked about the FBI, the most corrupt organization in the country. They're one of them. The CIA and the FBI are incredibly corrupt. You will not know what's going on. And the Trump administration is corrupt as well, by the way. I'm not removing the label of corruption from that administration, by the way, which is quite obvious at this point that they're hiding things.
Now, like I said, that statement coming from someone like Tim Dillon is a big deal, and it speaks just to how extreme and chaotic Trump and his administration are, to the point where you've got a guy like Tim Dillon who was all in on the MAGA bandwagon, and not even a year into Trump's term going, Trump and his administration are corrupt. And honestly, there's only so much bullshit you can throw at guys like Tim Dillon and Joe Rogan before even they go, yeah, this is too much even for us. At first you had the Epstein files, and obviously Rogan and Dillon did their whole spiel of accusing everyone except Trump, which I'm not gonna lie, kind of says a lot about their character, considering what they basically did was defend a PDF file. And now with this Charlie Kirk assassination and all the weird stuff surrounding it, it feels like slowly but surely we might have reached the tipping point, even with people like Joe Rogan and Tim Dillon. And here's the thing, if anyone's gonna change Republican minds, it's never going to be people like me, you, or anyone outspoken on the left. No matter how many hard-hitting facts you present or how much hypocrisy you point out, that will never matter to someone whose whole reason for voting is just to trigger the libtards. Unironically, the people who actually do have the power to change minds on the right are guys like Tim Dillon and Joe Rogan, because to those people, these are the guys they trust. Now, some of you might think I'm giving Joe Rogan and Tim Dillon too much importance or influence, but take Rogan's podcast with Trump, for example. If you look at the numbers, 60 million people listened to that episode. Now, even if just 1% of those people ended up voting for Trump because of it, that's 600,000 votes just from a podcast. And let's be real, the percentage is probably way higher than that. That's why I think the biggest impact when it comes to shifting Republican minds comes from people like Joe Rogan, Tim Dillon, Andrew Schulz, basically the whole Rogansphere. So whenever these guys say we're just comedians, we're not that impactful, don't buy into that, it's complete bullshit. And I think the more reasons Trump gives to someone like Tim Dillon to speak out against him, the more Trump digs the grave for the MAGA movement. Now, let's go back to Tim Dillon because he's not finished with his rant.
The FBI's behavior in this case is not making anybody feel good. I know very smart people who don't know what's going on. This is like, no, literally. I get in trouble on this show because I'll tell you, I just got fired from Saudi Arabia. I don't keep my mouth shut. I care deeply about the show being good. And I talk to smart people, and I talk to connected people, and I talk to people that are high up in certain things. And I'm telling you, people don't know. Genuinely. When the drone thing happened, people didn't know. We think they're ours. Remember those drones over those Jersey Bay? We think they're ours. A couple of them could be China. We don't know. Remember that? Is there a ship that's Iranian ship off the coast? People like, that's bullshit. And then somebody said, well, there was actually a ship. The people that I have talked to about this they truly do not know, which is a little scary. You'd want them to know. Some of the people I'm talking to, you'd want to know. You'd want them to go, I 100% know X, or I 100% know Y. But they're not saying that. They're saying, well, I loved Charlie and I loved his wife and, I'm being respectful and I don't know. And I have feelings that are weird. And I have suspicions that are odd. And that's coming from very smart people, very connected people that they don't know and are saying we don't know. And it's not the vice president. It's nobody in the administration. I'll say that because I don't want to. I know the news will pick this up and they'll be like, Tim Dillon. Whoa. It's no one in the administration, but it's all right outside of it, baby. It's right outside. So people going, I don't know. I don't know. Scary thing to hear. Weird thing to hear. Weird thing to hear. Make of it what you will. Make of it what you will.
Now, Tim Dillon keeps going by bringing up Candace Owens and a recent video she posted where she claims the FBI is lying about the Tyler Robinson case and says she has information that contradicts their statement.
Keep watching. Candace is going hard. She's really doing the investigative, whatever, and something. And it goes in different places with her. You know what I mean? We don't know which way it's going to go, but supposedly she got like a big, play this. See what she's doing over there. Because a couple of days ago, she said Gossamer did it. Get up Gossamer, hit image. Gossamer and hit image. A few days ago, and I think she was kind of going left here, hit image now. Get him up. She said Gossamer. She said Gossamer did it a couple of days ago. So, sure. Now, I don't know. But play her video now because she is talking to people. She seems to care more about this than the FBI. Candace Owens.
Now, Tim Dillon only reacts to a small part of the video Candace Owens posted, so let me show you the entire video so you can get a better idea of what she's talking about.
Okay, I didn't want to leave you guys on a crazy weekend cliffhanger. I needed to get that information out as soon as possible. Obviously, you can probably see that I received some information, a communication, which answered a lot of questions that the public has had about the story, or rather the non-story that we are getting from the feds. The push that Tyler Robinson is this lone shooter, which they're trying to establish as a fact. Some of the burning questions that we had, okay, well, if he turned himself in, how did he also not confess? I now have the answers to that. The main point, the reason why this information came to me, is because there's a narrative being spun right now by the media that Tyler Robinson is or was suicidal. That is not true. And that's a very scary thing when suddenly they're saying he's suicidal and, he's in solitary and he's not suicidal. So that was the reason why this information urgently came to me. Obviously, I know a lot more, and I'm going to share it with you guys on Monday. I just wanted to vet some of the things that I heard, ask some more questions from people that would know, and just to make sure everything I say is above board. And obviously, this lead led to more leads, and I want to give people a chance to respond. This is crazy. Nothing more that I can say. This is very serious. I don't know what's going on, but I do know that what we are being told has gone on is just not so. And this is really kind of going to begin, I think, to answer a lot of questions and many more questions that need to be asked. So I just wanted to let you know that what they're telling us about him being suicidal is not true.
All right, now let's go back to Tim Dillon and see his reaction to the video.
Right. All right. So Monday, she's going to have a lot of it. Her skin always looks insanely good. Not one blemish ever. It's amazing. It's really insane. she's going to have it Monday, and we'll go from there. I don't know. I know a few people that are looking into it but haven't figured anything out. You know, when you have something like this, you really got to do like, you know, actual, you know, journalism. You got to get people to call you and people to, you know. So I don't know. I don't know what her sources are or who's giving her the info or what the info is, but I do think she was friends with Charlie and she's really taking this very personally and really wants, you know, to leave no stone unturned. That's my impression, truly, that she really wants to get some closure there.
I mean, it is quite funny hearing someone call Candace Owens a journalist. At the very best, she's a drama farmer, but that's besides the point. Now, let me actually show you the information Candace Owens presented on her show.
There's more, of course. Of most interest to me, what I've learned is that his father does not believe, his parents don't believe that their son committed this crime. I was like, huh? Excuse me? That's a far cry from what the media has been telling us. Remember, the media presented this amazing story. The father realized his son was guilty, so it goes, right? And then he phoned over a friend to help him convince his son to turn himself in because this guy, you know, this mysterious guy was a friend and just had a connection with Tyler. And eventually they said, you've got to do the right thing here. We know this is you. That was the vibe. Certainly that's what the media was putting down for us to pick up. Well, I was told actually that it was kind of the opposite. That quote unquote family friend who we learned was a former detective with the police force, at least, and so therefore has strong ties with the police station, informed the family. It was that in-between person that informed the family that Tyler had been identified as the shooter. He recognized him. He knows Tyler. He gives them the heads up. And then I'm told, and I believe this, that the way in which he got arrested, or rather turned himself in, was because that family friend slash neighbor slash former detective told him, hey, it's best for you to turn yourself in because there's only one of two options here. Either you turn yourself in and everything is peaceable, or, you know, the SWAT team could come in here and arrest you and things would get crazy. So that's what happened. He went over to their house. Tyler was called over. Tyler was bewildered. He disputed the idea that he had murdered Charlie Kirk. In fact, according to my source, Tyler has never even stepped foot on UVU campus. Tyler, it turns out, which has already been revealed, was accepted into Utah State University, not Utah Valley. And that's actually interesting if you pause and reflect on that, because we didn't really consider how on earth Tyler became not just familiar with the layout of the campus, but familiar with the rooftop layout of UVU campus. So familiar that he knew exactly how to scale across the rooftops to duck down in order to take an almost impossible shot at a Charlie Kirk who was sitting beneath a tent. How did he know how to do all of that? Had he been there before? That he knew where Charlie was going to be sitting in it, that he would have that shot from on top of the Losey Center? What?
All right, I gotta say right off the bat, what the fuck is Candace Owens even wearing? I swear it blows my mind how right-wingers became so popular when they're literally some of the cringiest people on the planet. Now, as for what she said, I do think she brings up some good points that kind of make you wonder whether or not the FBI is telling the full story of what actually happened. The problem is that the person giving this information is Candace Owens, and when your reputation is as compromised as hers, it's really hard to believe that what she's saying is actually legit. Let's not forget that this is the same person who just 1 month ago tried whitewashing Harvey Weinstein's public image. So if there's any advice I can give you is that if you're going to watch the full episode where Candace Owens presents her information about Tyler Robinson, you should take everything with a grain of salt. With that being said, I stand by the statement I made in my previous video. Many of these questions could have been answered if there were competent leadership at the FBI. Instead, with someone like Kash Patel, who often seems unaware of what's happening in his own head, let alone capable of running an investigation, It's no surprise that people start creating their own explanations for the parts of this case that don't add up.